Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson, and you're listening to The Drive on this 10th day of September. This is a big day. I mean, tonight, a face-off that could well determine the outcome of the election 2024, with polls showing a very close race. Donald Trump, Kamala Harris meet on the ABC debate stage, the first time they have ever met face-to-face. And it's hard to underplay the importance of this encounter. So much at stake. I am Brian Wilson, and I am coming to you live today, not from bucolic Watertown, but from the Cedar Creek Marina. We are here laying down, we're the advance party, I guess you could say, for the big Super Talk 99.7 debate party, which will take place later tonight. I'll be joined here in a little bit later by the other guys. But in the meantime, let's start with a conversation about this upcoming debate. It is hard to believe, and I think it's surprising to me that in Washington, which sounds like a big city, but in many ways it's a pretty small town, that Harris and Trump never met face-to-face. And that's going to be interesting, because the first time that they sit down together, they'll be looking at somebody that they know a lot about but have no personal connection to. It's going to be an interesting debate, I think. I have an article here which I think is pretty good, written by the Federalist, which lays out, 26 questions that should be asked, and I think these are pretty good questions, and questions that should be asked. Whether or not the ABC will actually do that is hard to know. But let me just run through a few of these things that I hope will actually come up over the course of the evening. I can hold out hope, can I? If Joe Biden is not mentally fit to run president, number one, how is he mentally fit to remain president? That's a pretty good question to be asked of Kamala Harris. And speaking of Biden's mental fitness, who is the president right now? Number three, how often do you talk to Barack Obama and take his policy advice? Pretty good question there, I think. Number four, why don't you talk to a press that won't even ask you tough questions? Boy, I'm telling you, if you look at the press corps that is following Kamala Harris around, there's no hard-hitting questions here, and very few opportunities to ask real probing questions with a follow-up. I mean, it's drive-by journalism. She comes by, she waves at them as she gets on the plane. She might take a question, but not really give an answer. It won't really give an answer to the person who is asking the question. So there is that. Where do you stand on packing the Supreme Court? Great question. Great question. How do you reconcile your administration's undemocratic record with your supposed defense of democracy? And what does that mean? Well, it means Democrats, including Harris, have spent the last several years claiming that they are the defenders of democracy and freedom. And the Biden-Harris administration became the biggest danger to those principles by raiding its top political opponent's home, indicting him, charging him, pushing the narratives behind attempts to kick him off the ballot, and denying him the necessary Secret Service protection he needed to prevent an attempted assassination. Fair enough. Number seven, how do you reconcile your wildly unpopular track record with your goal of becoming president? Number eight, why did the administration deny Donald Trump the security he needed and requested given the threats against him? Have you called him to apologize? Have you spoken to him at all since he was nearly assassinated? Number nine, I think one of the best questions. Why do you deserve a stint at the White House? Why do you deserve to be the president of the United States? Number 10, how do you explain your selection of Tim Walz as a running mate in view of his false claims? Harris's VP pick, Governor Tim Walz, has a long track record of deliberately misleading voters on everything from his military record and how his children were conceived. Harris should explain not only whether she was aware of the lies before he became her running mate, but also why she appears to have accepted his record of fabrication and embellishment. And number 11, what is one effective thing you've done in office that is good for all Americans? I don't think she can answer that question. I don't think she has the answer to that question. How do you reconcile your desire for open borders with corporate media's unsubstantiated assertions that you support a border wall between the U.S. and Mexico? We hear that she now is in favor of cracking down on the border. But those words have not come out of her mouth. They are attributed to people who are, how do I put this, unidentified spokesman for the campaign. Let's put some names to that. Let's get her on the record about that. What is an acceptable amount of illegal immigration into the U.S. each year? Is it 0? Is it 1 million? Is it 10 million? What, if anything, did you do as border czar to curb the chaos plaguing the U.S.-Mexico border? She did nothing. Number 15, why should foreign criminals be allowed to vote in U.S. elections? 16, why do you believe children who survive botched abortions deserve to die? Number 17, what if protections, if any, do you support for the lives of unborn children? Number 18, why should women's rights include using a woman's bathroom, a man using a woman's bathroom, showering in a woman's locker room, and competing with women? I think, I've said this before, I've talked about this a great deal. I think this is the one question that could very much change the outcome of this election. What we know about the election so far is that Kamala Harris has picked up women voters and that Donald Trump has a problem with women voters. But those women have daughters, and those daughters play soccer and other sports, basketball, whatever it happens to be. And turning that question to her makes her defend her past statements on this issue. So and that would cause, I think, a lot of moms who are out there now contemplating a vote for Kamala Harris to reconsider that. Number 19, how do you reconcile your pro-Palestine statements with your alleged support for Israel's right to defend itself against terrorists? Number 20, why have you refused to meet with the families of the 13 American soldiers who were killed during your administration's Afghanistan withdrawal? Number 21, how will Americans have joy under a Harris-Walz administration? They talk about being joy as the center of your campaign strategy. How will you bring joy? I think that'll be an interesting question. 22, how can voters trust that you aren't lying about what you'll do with the most powerful office in the world? After all, you told us for years and years and years that you had certain positions that were based upon your principles. Her principles have not changed, she says, but she remains the same person she's always been, but her positions have changed. If your positions are not based on principles, then what are they based on? Where do you actually stand on the issue of banning fracking? Number 24, how will Americans keep their health insurance amid your plans to strip it? Oh, she says she doesn't believe that anymore. Well, let's get her on the record about it. Number 25, how will free speech under your ongoing calls for big tech censorship? And number 26, how many more journalists will you prosecute for doing their jobs? This is something that's not generally known. As California Attorney General, Harris prosecuted journalists David DeLayden and Sandra Merritt for exposing Planned Parenthood for trafficking the body parts of aborted babies. She went after them and had them prosecuted for having the temerity to try to expose that. So there are so many questions. Now, ABC is handling this debate. ABC will be asking the questions. I have been backstage before big debates, and I have watched some of the best in the business craft their questions very carefully. And I know that they're working and reworking and making sure that each other is not stepping on the other's questions. And I know that they're coordinating behind the scenes. But do you really have confidence that ABC will have the willingness to ask the hard questions? And they got to ask questions of Donald Trump, too. I get that. His record is a bit more out there. He has a lot of things that he has accomplished. Will they acknowledge any of that? You also have to understand that ABC, according to the Media Research Center, ABC has a situation where they have provided, according to the Media Research Center, 100% positive coverage on Kamala Harris and 93% negative coverage on Donald Trump. So is there any hope of a fair and balanced debate in which hard questions are asked of both candidates? It's not wrong to ask hard questions. It's wrong to ask hard questions of only one side. So let's make sure that we're equal opportunity offenders, as we used to say. Trump is expected, according to the Washington Examiner, to use Harris's own record against her at the debate, but the rules of the debate do not allow one of the participants in the debate to question directly the other. And that is, I think, something that is going to be a little hard to overcome. And remember, microphones will be muted during the debate so that when you're not talking, you cannot be heard by the audience. There will be witnesses in the room who will be there to try to pick up anything that might be said that is not picked up by the microphones, but one way or the other. Unless it turns into a free-for-all, I don't expect that the microphones will be unmuted in any crosstalk. This comes, as I mentioned, at a time when the race is neck and neck. Nationally, in new surveys, pollsters see warning signs for Democrats. Harris is struggling with key groups against Trump, poll finds. This from FoxNews.com. Former President Trump and Vice President Harris neck and neck on their first and potentially only debate in Philadelphia on Tuesday, according to a new survey of voters that has some pollsters seeing a warning sign for Democrats. Harris leads Trump 49-48 among registered voters, showing a race that has tightened since August when Harris held a 3-point lead against Trump, according to an NPR PBS Marist national poll released Tuesday morning, released just today. Among those who say they definitely plan to vote, the survey found Harris edging Trump by 3 points, 51-48. Trump, however, leads Harris among independent voters. This is important, 49-46, a 14-point shift from August when Harris commanded an 11-point lead in that field. So Trump has clawed back the independent voters. They have heard the questions. They have questions about Harris since the first announcement was made that she would be the presumptive nominee. So Trump has made some real progress in that regard, and it would seem to me that really when Trump speaks tonight, he has to remember that for all practical purposes, he's speaking to about 100,000 independent voters in 7 states, and every answer should be carefully crafted to try to win them over to your side. You've made progress. That progress must continue if you're to prevail in this election. So, tonight, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris on the ABC debate stage. There probably will not be another inflection point like this one in the election between now and Election Day. What happens here tonight, hugely important, and we will be watching it with you. And I hope that you'll come down and join us for the debate party here at Cedar Creek Marina in lovely Mount Juliet. Let's call it 20 minutes now, past the hour of 3 o'clock. Hey, did you know that gold is up 78% over the last 5 years and silver is up 99% in the same time period? Meanwhile, the U.S. dollar has lost 25% of its value since 2020. The government-induced inflation is stealing your wealth, and it doesn't seem that Washington, D.C. has any plans to stop. Gold and other precious metals are a great shield against that inflation theft. And during an election year, the politicians will promise you that they'll rein in their spending, but it's all campaign talk. They can't stop, and they know it. What you need to do is think about making a different kind of investment, one that will withstand inflation. Where do you get that protection? You want to reach out to my friends Kyle and Hannah at Nashville Gold and Coin. They will take good care of you and keep you well informed on precious metals opportunities. Please act now and get your shield against out-of-control government spending. Go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com and set up your appointment today.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Another shooting at another high school. Details at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, that's Ken Weaver there in the newsroom, and there in the glass enclosed nerve center of our station. There's Chris Weber pushing all the blinky buttons. Good to see you guys on this Tuesday, huge day, and already here at Cedar Creek Marina, we've got people who are rolling in. I think we've got about 15, 20 people coming in the door right now.
Boy, you're drawing the crowd, Brother Brian.
Well, you know what? All I can tell you is we try to put on a good show for people, and they come. You know, one thing that has always amazed me, and you know this, Ken, because you've been out there at some of these things. Our audience and our listeners are so dedicated to what we do, and when we show up, they show up.
Yeah.
And I love that about them, and so it's good to see people here at Cedar Creek Marina. I mean, already tables are starting to fill up. So if you want to get a good table for tonight, you might want to, send somebody to sort of be the advance party. Are you the advance party, ma'am? Are you the advance party for your group? No?
Just like, what are you talking about?
But a lot of people are saying that, yeah. She says she doesn't have a group, but other people do have groups here. So, I don't think, guys, that we can underestimate how important this debate is tonight. The vice presidential debate will be interesting, and certainly, but generally vice presidential debates are not game changers. Mm-hmm. It is the presidential debate, and this may be the only one. There have been no commitments of any debates beyond this. This could be the only one, the only real opportunity to sort of draw Kamala Harris out. And how you, if you're Donald Trump, how you do that, I'm not quite sure how you accomplish that from the standpoint of debating strategy, since you're not allowed to address each other directly or ask each other questions. But it'll be interesting to see, how this all sort of unfolds tonight, and exactly what kind of questions will be asked by the moderators. Will we get to the bottom of any of these big issues that our side is so interested in, like, how you flip-flopped on so many of these positions? How do you now hold this position that you held exactly the opposite position for so many years? So that'll be fun to watch. And again, not a better place to do it than to do it in a place where you have friends who sort of see the world the same way that you do. And a lot of other news going on. We'll try to get into some of that. But it's really all about politics today. It's really about the debate. And coming up in just a few moments after we do the news with Ken Weaver, I want to open up the phone lines and ask. I went through 26 questions. Now, that came from the Federalist. It was pretty good stuff, pretty good questions. A lot of those, I think, would be on your list. Do you have a question, is what I'd like to know. Do you have a question that you would like the anchors to ask? And what would that be? So, we'll open up the phone lines here in just a moment and let you get on board after the news. But I think it's important to understand that we shouldn't get our hopes up too high, because we're talking about a news organization, as I mentioned, that according to the Media Research Center has provided 100% positive coverage of Kamala Harris and 93% negative coverage of Donald Trump. It doesn't seem right, doesn't seem fair. ABC is the #1 network newscast, but not necessarily the most watched news program. I think Fox News has several that have better numbers than ABC does, but when it comes to network news, it's not like the old days of Walter Cronkite or the others, Huntley Brinkley and all of that. It really is, they have a very small, minuscule audience, and they only have 30 minutes a day to provide their news, and so they don't look at the world in the same way that you and I do. And I don't think that they look at the world fairly in many, many cases. So, you can't really expect that David Muir is going to get too deep or the questions are going to get too tough. But we can cross our fingers and hope so. Again, big debate tonight. We're going to be here all the way through the debate tonight, probably around 5:30 after the three Amigos. I'll be joined by Dan Mandis and Chris Hand and Matt Murphy, and we will carry on right up till debate time, and then the debate will be carried here on Super Talk 99.7. Right now, time for the news at 3:30.
3:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We are bracing for what Tropical Storm Francine is going to mean for Tennessee. Now, it's going to hit Louisiana first by tomorrow, then by Thursday, start impacting parts of Middle Tennessee. Looks like there could be some severe weather with it. We'll be on the lookout for you. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Another shooting at another high school. Today it was Northwest High School in Omaha, Nebraska.
The victim of the shooting was a 15-year-old male. The victim was transported to a local hospital in critical condition.
Omaha Police Deputy Cherie Thomas says another student's in custody, and this incident is isolated, she says, between these two students. Right now in Middle Tennessee, Darius Rucker will serve 11 months and 29 days probation after drugs were found in his car. Channel 4's Marissa Sulik was there and has details from court.
Today, alongside his attorneys, Rucker pled no contest to one count of simple possession. That means he accepted his punishment of a 1-year probation without admitting guilt or denying the charges. Rucker was pulled over by law enforcement back in 2023 when they found THC, a blunt, and psychedelics in his car. It took an entire year before authorities issued an arrest warrant February of this year.
Are you pleading no contest to simple possession of controlled?
Yes, Your Honor.
Media reached out to Rucker afterwards today to see if he had any comment. He declined and walked upstairs, but his attorney did give us this statement that reads in part, Darius looks forward to working through this probationary period and putting this all behind him.
Fencing has gone up to keep people on Lower Broad from falling into the Cumberland River. Channel 4 says it's where Metro Police believe Riley Strain fell down the embankment and into the river. More recently, a woman found alive in the same area, emerging from the embankment, soaking wet, hours after becoming separated from friends. This is one of the first steps in the process of making Lower Broad safer in the wake of Riley Strain's death. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
You've heard me many times talk about the folks over at DT McCall's. Good people. They have a family-owned business that's been here in Middle Tennessee for more than 100 years, 5 convenient locations, and there's a pretty good chance one of them is near you. Now, if you need furniture, if you need appliances, if you need something for your home, something that makes your house a home, you're going to find it at DT McCall's. Maybe you need a mower. I tell you what, I have a Cub Cadet mower, and I love it. It's one of my favorite things. I got it at DT McCall's, and it is a beast of a machine. I think if you got a Cub Cadet mower, you would be well pleased as well. Whatever it is, you're going to find it at DT McCall's. And then you're going to find people who will treat you honestly and forthrightly. There's no upcharge for things like delivery or setup or the haul away of the old thing. And whenever possible, DT McCall sells products that are made and manufactured right here in Middle Tennessee. So what do you want to do? You want to give your money to a company that has a corporate headquarters in Delaware, or do you want to do business with a Tennessee company that does business with other Tennessee companies? I think you know the answer to that question. Listen, find out about their 5 convenient locations and all the things they can do for your home. Just go to their website, dtmccalls.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
It is 37 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson coming to you live from Cedar Creek Marina and Mount Juliet. Hey, everybody, are you just asleep out there? Let's have a little noise. Yeah, already people are showing up. And we're going to be bringing you the debate party here later tonight. I'll be joined by Dan Mandis and Chris Hand and Matt Murphy and all the guys coming up a little bit later. You might want to send an advance party down to sort of secure a table. We've got lots of room, but it's going to be a packed house, I'm pretty sure, before the night is over. Okay, I want to open up the phone lines at 615-737-9986. And what we want to do here's the question. This is the question of the moment. If you had the opportunity to ask one question in this debate, what would it be? 615-737-9986. I mean, I think this is important. I mean, we have no control over it, but let's compare and contrast, the things that you want to hear with the questions that actually get asked later tonight by David Muir and the other anchor who's going to be handling the debate questions. 615-737-9986. A lot of open phone lines right now. Keith out on the road. He's ready to go. We'll wait for some other phone calls to come in. Keith, if you had the opportunity to ask a question tonight of either candidate, what would that be?
Man, I guess I jumped the shark. I had a couple of things that if I was Trump, that I would say that would set people's hair on fire, like he did when he said he wanted to build the wall. But I don't know. I don't know. They won't ever ask him the questions that I want him to say.
And what would be the thing that you would find most interesting to get an elicited response from Kamala Harris?
Well, if Trump come out, I mean, he had the temerity to come out and say he wanted to build a wall. Most people probably would have said, oh, man, you shouldn't say that. But you found out the American people were behind him. He should come out and say, I'm for repealing the 16th Amendment and having a flat tax and getting rid of the Internal Revenue Service, first of all. And second of all, I'd get rid of the Federal Reserve. And you talking about there'd be people on both sides that would be wanting that to happen.
All right, Keith, thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. Have a good day, Keith. Let's go to James in Woodbury. James, hello, you're up next on The Drive. What's your thought, James? If you had the opportunity, is I guess what I'm looking for, to ask one question of either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris as one, imagine that you're the moderator. What would you ask?
My question would be to Kamala, and it would be, if she wants to take everybody's guns, would she use the U.S. military and order them to fire on U.S. citizens to take them? Yeah,
I mean, it's interesting. I think the Second Amendment is a delicate issue for her because she's been on the record so much, and she's right there with Joe Biden on some of the things that he wanted to do. The so-called assault weapons ban is something that Joe Biden promulgated on the country for a short period of time. That has now lapsed. I think he would like to see it come back again. She said she's been all in favor of that. Drawing her out on the Second Amendment would be a great question. However, I don't have much hope that one will come up tonight. But thank you for the call, James. Steve in Cookville. Hello, Steve. You're up with Brian on The Drive. So you're one of the moderators. You want to elicit a response from either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. What's the question you would ask?
I would ask her a simple question. Why should I vote for you for president, lady?
and what kind of answer do you think you might get from her?
Oh, gosh, it'd be an ear buster, and you'd never hear the end of it for about 15 minutes.
You know, she says when asked that question, sort of loosely asked that question the other day, she said something about, well, it's important that we turn the page. Turn the page. That's a very nonsensical answer. Turn the page on what? Turn the page to what? And I think that's likely what you'll hear tonight. That's the thing. I think you'll hear a lot of platitudes, but I don't think you'll find much detail in her position. She likes being rather amorphous. You don't know what she stands for. She just wants to be joyful in all things. Betty in Hendersonville. Hello, Betty, our old friend. How are you? You're on with Brian on The Drive. What's your question?
I'm just preaching. I have a humdinger.
Okay.
I would say, Madam Vice President, you've never held a job in the private sector, but those of us who work in the private sector are used to having what is called an annual review. In those terms, you're basically asking for a promotion from vice president to president. I would like you to compare and contrast the duties of office for vice president with president and what outstanding accomplishments you've made as vice president that we, the people, should promote you to president of the United States.
I think that's a great question, Betty. And watch her stutter and stammer. You know, she's not good on the fly. And she won't have any notes. And there's nobody in the room she could turn to. And the vice president won't be there to hold her hand. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not she can put a sentence together and answer in any coherent way. Mark in Mount Juliet, you're up next. Okay, you get the chance to ask a question of either Kamala Harris in our hypothetical scenario here. What would it be? What would you try to ask them? And what kind of answer are you hoping to get?
Well, actually, I'd like to ask both of them. They're talking about raising the age of retirement to 67, and I'm getting ready to retire. I want to make sure that doesn't happen, because if she gets elected, I'm going to choose to do retirement in December.
And so, you know, you want to get her buckled down on that particular question.
Well, I mean, that's one of many, but yes.
All right. Thank you for that, Erwin. Appreciate it. Ricky in Shovelville. Ricky, hello. You're on with Brian. Ricky, what's your question if you could have a chance to ask one?
Hey, Brian. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I would ask Kamala, in the last 3.5 years, and all the millions of people that they let cross the border, and the hundreds of thousands of people who have died of fentanyl poisoning, how in the world can she sit there with a straight face and run for president? That would be my question.
I know. I mean, she seems to say that she's now in favor of border control. In fact, if you've seen her ads, we don't get to see the ads that are running in some of these battleground states, but they're out there on the internet. And if you take a look at her ads, what you find is an ad where she talks about the need for border security. And you would think that the ad was for Donald Trump, because featured prominently in the ad is Donald Trump's wall. I mean, there's like 5 or 6 shots of Donald Trump's wall in her ad, which is bizarre because she was totally against the wall. She called it his vanity project, his medieval vanity project. So getting her locked down on, I mean, really, the thing that, if you're a good journalist, the one thing that you want to ask and you want to get to the bottom of is, you know, how could you have held these positions in the past and now completely abandon them and think that they are not the right positions? What happened? What was the determining factor that caused you to flip and flop? Richard in Nolensville. Richard, hello, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, Richard?
Hey, Brian. I just wish Trump would give her the opportunity to say, excuse me, I'm talking, so President Trump could say back to her, we hear you talking, but we don't hear you saying anything.
Yeah, listen, that would be I hope he's got a real quick, because she'll try that. At some point, she'll try that little trick. Well, excuse me, I'm talking. Yeah, I hear you talking, but you're not saying very much. That would be boom, boom. That would be the end of that. Thank you. That's by the way, a great thing. I hope he's got a quick rejoinder for that potential, because I think that will happen. Kimberly in Nolensville. Hello, Kimberly. You're on with Brian on the Drive. Kimberly, what would be your question if you had the chance to ask?
Hi, Brian. My question would be for Kamala Harris. Does she think all young people in America are just completely brain dead?
And why would you ask that question?
Because it's the way that she answers questions like we're 2-year-old kids. And
she gets into her kindergarten teacher voice, yeah.
Right. It's us taxpayers that are paying for all of these illegal immigrants. And I think it's just merely disgusting.
All right. Kimberly, thank you very much. Junior in Woodbury. Junior, good afternoon. You're on with Brian. It's you're the one of the moderators. You have the chance to ask a question to elicit a response from either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. What would you do?
I'd ask Wallaby there 2 questions. The first one was about men being in women's sports.
Yep.
That'd be the first one. The second one, a lot of people forgot about that cocaine in the damn White House they found.
The cocaine at the White House, right?
Yes, that'd be the second question.
All right. Thank you for that, Junior. I appreciate it. Let's go to Terry in Shovelville. Terry, good afternoon. You're on with Brian. You get a chance to ask a question. What would it be?
I would love to ask her if she believes in term limits for our Congress as there is for the president. And if so, how many years or how many terms would she believe they should be limited to?
Yeah, so you like the idea of term limits, right?
Yes.
All right. Good for you, Terry. Thank you very much for the call. We got time for a few more. Irwin in Nashville. Hello, Irwin. You're on with Brian on the Drive. There's some new names here I've not seen before. If you had the chance to ask a question, what would you ask?
I would ask Kamala Harris regarding the fracking. What's the deal about the fracking? That she was against fracking and now she is for fracking. What's up with this flip-flop?
I think I know the answer to that question. The answer to that question is she needs to win votes in Pennsylvania. That's why she changed her mind. But I don't think she's changed her position. She'll say she is, but I mean, you know, how in the world can you say time and time and time again, I'm absolutely against fracking. I want to see fracking end. I'm absolutely for the Green New Deal. I want to see it implemented. How can you hold those positions and then immediately flip-flop and say, now, you know, on reflection, perhaps fracking is not so bad? I don't understand how you do that. But I will, you know, hopefully we'll get to that question at some point. Dave in Hendersonville. Hello, Dave. You're on with Brian on the Drive.
How you doing, Brian?
What's your question?
I would ask her, out of the people, the people that's been murdered by the illegals that has crossed, that they have let in, how many of those people, how many family members have you called to condone your sympathy to?
Yeah, in other words, how many times have you reached out where things have happened as a result of your administration's policy? Yeah, the great question, Dave. I like that one. We got time for one more. Randy, out on the road. You're up with Brian on the drive. What would your question be?
Yes, sir. I would ask Kamala Harris, since she was the last person in the room when Joe was making all these important decisions, did she ever push back, and did she ever offer up any other alternatives and ask him to implement any of her policies that she's promoting now?
In other words, if she was the last voice in the room, did she try to propose any of the things that she's now proposing now? Great question. Great question. Well, let's see how many of those get asked tonight. Right now, 50 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk. Something awesome is coming to Genesis Diamonds next weekend, September, that's actually the 20th, the 21st, and the 22nd. It's a 3-day designer engagement ring event showcasing the world's top 2 brands in bridal jewelry. Speaking, of course, about Tacori and Viraggio. Tacori from California, Viraggio from New York, both flying in their entire lines, including all new rings for this special event. You can explore hundreds of exquisite American-made designer rings. Plus, Genesis will have special incentives, zero interest financing, and up to $5,000 in instant savings. In addition, Genesis has expanded a selection of GIA-certified diamonds for this big 3-day event starting the 20th, the 21st, and the 22nd. All shapes, all sizes, rock-bottom prices for the rock you want. This is the best of the best. Every Tacori ring handcrafted by master artisans with exceptional quality. Every Viraggio ring made by hand with unmatched attention to detail. These are brands other jewelers only wish they could offer, but at Genesis, they have the entire Tacori and Viraggio collections, and they'll be on display the 20th, the 21st, and the 22nd. Don't miss the bridal jewelry event of the year, September 20th, 21st, and 22nd at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills, and Cool Springs.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Just got an update from Kentucky State Police on the search for that highway shooter. Details at 4 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, let's take a look at the market, see how they did today. Mixed boards today. Dow Jones Industrials down 92. The S&P up slightly, 24 points. NASDAQ had not a bad day, up 141. So mixed boards, what's driving the market? Let's check in with John Maxon over at Beacon Capital Management. Good afternoon, John.
Hey, good afternoon, Brian. Yeah, a little bit of a mixed board. It was a little bit of a roller coaster. The market actually went from negative to positive, at least on the S&P and the NASDAQ, reversing some earlier losses. The Dow was really hit by J.P. Morgan coming out and warning that their interest income forecasts were too high, so that might be a warning on the banks moving forward. But really the big report that everybody's going to be looking at tomorrow, including the market, is going to be the CPI report. It's going to really dictate what the Fed's going to do moving forward. Last time it came in at 2.9. That was the first time below 3% in a while. The expectation for tomorrow is 2.6. If that misses high, that may be negative for the market. If it hits that or below, we could see a really positive day in the market. But it's really going to dictate what the Fed does next week with rate cuts. So an important report tomorrow to watch.
All right, thank you very much, John. And find out about all the things that that John Maxon and all the good people at Beacon Capital Management can do to help you get ready for your retirement. Just go to their website, askbeaconnow.com. 58 past the hour. Let's talk about the folks over at United Structural Systems. You know, they've been around since 1994. That's some 30 years. They have more than 25,000 satisfied residential customers. And if you have a problem at your house, you know, things like your foundation, you think you have maybe some problems, drywall separating, doors or windows sticking, stair-step cracks in masonry mortar joints, or a chimney that tilts or leans a bit, well, you know, you should give them a call. They can help you out. 615-488-7855. Take a look at it. Listen, I just had the folks come out and look at some things at my house that I've been a little concerned about. I got a complete walk around, a complete walkthrough. They came to me with some things that I knew about, some things I didn't know about, and they left me with a range of options. And here's the thing. You don't pay a penny until the job is done and you're completely satisfied. That's the thing you need to know. So whether it's foundation repair, waterproofing in your crawl space, maybe you have some concrete that's level or sinking, they can put it back like it's supposed to be. They say don't replace it, raise it. USS is the company to call. 615-488-7855. Learn more at ussTN.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Four o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. New Orleans now under a hurricane watch as Tropical Storm Francine continues churning in the Gulf. Middle Tennessee is going to feel the impacts by Thursday, and there could be severe storms as a result. Full forecast. Traffic coming up in 5 minutes. Just got an update from Kentucky State Police on the search for highway shooting suspect Joseph Couch, accused of opening fire on cars and injuring 5 people Saturday night on I-75 in Laurel County.
By now, we should have got a pretty good tip that he has exited the woods. We have not got that. So our main focus is to remain in those woods until we find him.
As Kentucky State Police Master Trooper Scotty Pennington asking residents stay out of that rugged, hilly area around 75 miles south of Lexington. A shooting at a high school in Nebraska today. It left a 15-year-old student in critical condition. Omaha Northwest High School student Daniel Westcott says he saw someone on the ground bleeding.
We've done the drills and everything, but you never think it'll be your school. You always see it on the news. You never think it'll be you.
Police have another student in custody. They say the shooting is an isolated incident between those two students. Here in Nashville, Channel 4 says fencing has gone up along the Cumberland River downtown to protect people since the death of Riley Strain. Reporter Steve Mailing says it's part of something bigger.
Metro Council member Jacob Coupin says he's walked next to the Cumberland more often since Strain's death. He says he's noticed the spots along Gay Street that had no preventative measures separating people from the embankment. More recently, a woman was found alive in the same area this fencing now sits. We spoke with people who live here and are just visiting about the changes.
I think that's a great measure. There's real no reason for anybody to go into that area to enjoy the river.
But I'm glad the fence is going up because there are too many people there's too many guests that come along here, and they might not know the seriousness of how far the drop-off is.
So this fencing is up along Gay Street, where Metro Police say Riley Strain fell down the embankment and into the river. Right now in our nation's capital, Congress is back in session. They honored the 13 service members killed during a terrorist attack as the U.S. military presence was ending in Afghanistan in 2021. It was hosted by Republican Speaker Mike Johnson, but lawmakers of both parties were there, including New York Democratic Congressman Hakeem Jeffries.
With this Congressional Gold Medal, we reverently honor 13 patriots who have fallen in a war zone with tremendous valor.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. 7 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, and you're listening to The Drive. We got a big live remote going here tonight. We're coming to you live from Cedar Creek Marina, the Scoreboard restaurant here, and already the place is starting to fill up. So we're going to have a good crowd tonight as we watch the debate. I'll be joined a little bit later by Dan Mandis, Chris Hand, and Matt Murphy, but in the meantime, we're in the middle of the drive, so come on by, say hello, maybe have an adult beverage, find a place to sit down, settle in for the evening, because it's going to be a long evening and an important evening. For this debate could well determine the outcome of the election. People say, well, that's an awful lot. I mean, are you sure that it's that important? It is that important. It is that absolutely that important that we have a situation right now where this could be the big inflection point that changes minds, that changes votes. The polls are pretty much deadlocked. There may be some movement a little one way or the other, but the big inflection point could come tonight as we try to learn, the positions of Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. And so I want to set that aside for a moment. That's important, and we'll get back to it. We'll have more conversation about it. But I do want to spend some time talking about another kind of showdown. And this is a showdown that's now taking place on Capitol Hill. Listen to this story from the National Pulse. It's a swamp story. White House is threatening to shut the government down if the House GOP tries to add a measure to the continuing resolution to keep the government funded that would require federal voter law to check out the citizenship of those who are casting their ballots. Here we go. The Biden-Harris White House threatening to veto government funding if House Republicans do not remove the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act from a continuing resolution. House Speaker Mike Johnson is signaling that he intends to advance the CR, the continuing resolution that amends current federal voter law to prevent non-citizens from casting ballots in federal elections and funds the government through the next 6 months. It's already illegal, they say, on the other side, for non-citizens to vote in a federal election. It is a federal crime punishable by prison and fines. This behavior is wrong, and the law clearly prohibits it, the Biden-Harris government claims in a statement addressing the funding bill. They continue, in addition, making a false claim of citizenship or unlawfully voting in an election is punishable by removal from the United States and a permanent bar to admission. States have already effected the safeguards in place to verify voters' eligibility and maintain the accuracy of voter rolls, the White House statement adds. So you always hear this from the Democrats whenever this comes up. Well, illegal voting by non-citizens is not a problem in America. It's just, it's not a big issue. So why, if it's not a big issue, do they have such a big issue about adding this to the law that says that you have to prove your citizenship before you can cast your ballot? The data suggests, actually, that a statistically significant number of non-citizens are illegally casting ballots in the U.S. federal elections despite the ban on doing so, due to an inadequate vetting. According to, this is an important statistic, not many people listen to this, but Rasmussen Reports did an interesting survey a while back. 97% of non-citizens that were polled acknowledged that they had cast a vote for a candidate in the 2020 presidential election. I'm going to repeat that. 97% of non-citizens told Rasmussen's report that they voted for a candidate in the 2020 presidential election. The survey included 2,466 likely U.S. voters, and of them, 222 either stated they were non-citizens or did not know their citizenship status, meaning that basically 10% of the sample had dubious legal voting status. Pretty interesting, isn't it? And so with that information now in hand, you can say that roughly 10% of the vote could be done by non-citizens who are not supposed to be voting, if you extrapolate those numbers out. It's very concerning, isn't it? And so again, the Biden administration is on record today saying, if you try to attach this measure to the continuing resolution to continue the funding of the government, that will happen between now and Election Day, then we will promise to veto it, and that could mean a government shutdown. So where does the thing stand, and why are they so adamant against it? Here's from thehill.com. They cover the Hill. That's all they do. Speaker Mike Johnson plowing ahead with his plan to avert a government shutdown, despite some GOP opposition that is large enough to tank the effort, setting the stage for a potentially embarrassing vote on the House floor that will foil the Speaker's funding strategy. So why is that? We control the House, right? Well, apparently 6 Republicans, including hardline conservatives and some defense hawks, have said they will vote against Johnson's government funding gambit, which pairs a 6-month continuing resolution with a bill backed by former President Trump requiring proof of citizenship to vote. Republicans can only afford to lose 4 of their members if all Democrats vote no, and there is full attendance. But do you think all Democrats will vote no? That's a good question. I mean, if you're in a purple district, if you're in a very tough race, how will you vote on this matter? There are some districts where Democrats might lean toward voting yes. The Speaker says he'll move forward with the plan, arguing that the importance of the legislation, especially the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, demands a vote on the floor. We're going to put the SAVE Act and the CR together, and we're going to move through that process, Johnson told reporters Tuesday morning. I am resolved to that. We are not going to look at any other alternative or any other step. I think it's the right thing to do. Pressed on the gloomy vote count, Johnson said, you know how I operate. You do the right thing. You let the chips fall where they may. So let's see what happens. Well, it'll be interesting to see whether Republicans really would vote against that. And it would be interesting to see whether there are going to be some Democrats that would vote for it. One way or the other, what's wrong with asking people, when they do the most important thing that they can do as citizens, to prove that they are indeed citizens? Not a difficult question, not a hard thing, but Democrats always stand against this. Absolutely stand against it each and every time. The Speaker relayed that message to members at the Tuesday morning conference meeting today. One source in the room said Johnson was doubling down on the CR, while another said he was passionately pushing for his funding package. Representative Ralph Norman, Republican South Carolina, a supporter of the plan, says it is good news that Johnson is sticking with it. But while one member said the detractors were addressed in the room, Norman said there was no indication that any of them had changed their position. Representative Thomas Massey, Republican of Kentucky, who has said he plans to vote against the legislation, described the funding package as a fairy tale, according to a source in the room. Those opposed to the plan includes fiscal hawks who are opposed to any kind of a CR to fund the government at current levels, defense hawks unhappy with the effect of a 6-month CR on the military, and moderates skeptical of Johnson's strategy. Johnson's funding plan will face its first test Tuesday afternoon, when the House is scheduled to vote a procedural vote on the spending legislation. If it advances, a vote on the underlying bill is set for Wednesday. So we should know something this afternoon. Tim Burchett of Tennessee remains unclear if the legislation will clear that hurdle. He has announced his opposition to the legislation, saying he's considering also voting no on Tuesday. However, if it does squeak through, top Senate Democrats have already deemed the legislation a non-starter. Well, okay. That's fine. If you don't want to vote for it, don't vote for it. Let's find out why you're there. And then you have to go back and explain to your constituents why you felt that this was a bill that you couldn't vote for, and why you don't think it's important that only citizens vote in the coming election. We all know what's really going on here, don't we? Don't we have it figured out by now what exactly is going on? Democrats, want those people who are into this country legal to vote in the upcoming election. And if Rasmussen's report is right, we could count about 10% of the vote are people who should not be voting in this coming election because they are not citizens. The Biden administration the other day, the Department of Justice, I think just yesterday, made a big deal of taking one person to trial. They have brought an indictment against one individual in the entire country Are we really led to believe that there's only one person in the entire country who has violated the law when it comes to voting, even though they are not a citizen in the 2020 election? I don't think anybody believes that. The truth is, I think a fair number of people who are not citizens of this country will vote in this election. Democrats are sort of counting on that fact, and it's incredibly difficult under the current laws, to prove that that is happening. Somebody comes up, they say they're a citizen, and they're on the voter rolls, then it's very hard to try to intervene at that particular point. No matter whether you have poll watchers there or not, it becomes incredibly difficult to intervene at that point. So it goes forward, but again, let's put them on the record. Let's find out exactly what happens here. I think it could be an interesting showdown. I think it could be very interesting to see exactly how some Republicans vote and how they explain that vote. And I think it'll be very interesting to let watch Democrats squirm as they have to explain to their constituents why they voted against the measure. But we continue to watch that one. It's going to happen again. Some measure will go up on the floor this afternoon. We should have some sense of how that is unfolding. We'll watch for that. And in the meantime, we are preparing for tonight's debate and how that will come up. Again, many questions involving the border could potentially be asked tonight. The question is, will they be asked or will they not be asked? And whether or not Kamala Harris will have to explain the obvious flip-flop that she has taken on this matter. And maybe she'll be asked how she feels about this potential legislation, get her explanation as to why. But again, if anybody really believes that people who are not citizens are going to not vote in this election, I think they should be disabused of that notion. We're now finding in some states like Virginia, other states that they have gone back and looked at the rolls, they have found cases, thousands and thousands of people in some instances, where people who were not citizens voted in the last election. It has happened. For the Democrats to claim that this is not a thing is just a flight of fancy. It has happened. It will happen again. And what's wrong with saying if you are going to exercise the most important right you have as a citizen, that you actually prove that you're a citizen? Not a difficult request. Not an onerous burden. 20 minutes now past the hour. All right, fall is more than pumpkin spice lattes and pretty leaves. It's a time where you can save a lot of money your fall season with great offers from the folks at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, your Rude Pro partner. You're looking for an HVAC specials? How about free Wi-Fi thermostat on qualifying new HVAC systems? Now you can control your HVAC system from anywhere. Or a free whole home air filtration system with the purchase of 2 or more qualifying HVAC systems, or a new HVAC system replacement, which starts as low as $68 a month with approved credit. Let's talk about plumbing, because they do plumbing as well. Busy Bee has new tankless water heaters as low as $72 a month. Whole home drain pipe replacement as low as $76 a month. Whole home water distribution replacement as low as $85 a month. Or even a whole home water filtration system as low as $39 with approved credit. And remember, being a Beehive member is the best way to keep your systems in tip-top shape all year long. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee HVAC, your Rude Pro partner, 615-775-7833, or visit busybeehvac.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hurricane watches going up in Louisiana for Tropical Storm Francine. We've got authorities updating the search for the Kentucky highway shooter. Nebraska had a shooting at a school today, and there's a push for metal detectors here in Tennessee schools. All this and more at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7. That's Ken Weaver. Ken, I was actually going to ask you, I was going to engage in a colloquy with the gentleman from Oklahoma about this Hurricane Francine. I mean, they're talking 7 inches of rain in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And we're talking about as it moves inland, it will be on as they say, the right side of the storm, which is the wrong side of the storm to be on. It's the right side, but it's the wrong side.
Yes.
Because it's the right side of a storm that will always give you the most rain and the most weather. And so we're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.5, 3 inches of rain in our area as it moves in here a little later in the week. So, it's something we definitely need to be prepared for. I mean, we need the rain, but when it comes that fast and that furious, it can be a real problem.
Well, one thing that Channel 4's Dan Thomas was talking about earlier today, the risk for flash flooding is enhanced because it is so dry here. There hasn't been any rain for the ground to actually soak up. So this rain's going to be falling basically on just rock-hard dirt, and it's going to be running really rapidly. And we're talking about what could be waves of rain for Middle Tennessee, specifically for the Nashville area, starting Thursday morning.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a significant amount of rain coming our way. The hurricane, as it goes, is not going to be all that much. I mean, a hurricane is a hurricane. You don't take it lightly.
If it gets to that.
Yeah, if it gets to a Category 1 hurricane, the folks down in that part of the world, they know how to deal with a Category hurricane. Category 1 hurricane, they don't even hardly get excited about that kind of stuff. But it's very rarely the wind that gets you. It's the water.
It is the water, and there's going to be plenty of it.
And there's going to be a lot of it, that's for sure. All right, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that. Again, Hurricane Francine making its way toward the Louisiana coast. Francine will become a hurricane Tuesday afternoon, according to the experts, and make landfall in Louisiana sometime between Wednesday afternoon and the evening. The track of the storm will bring heavy rains to the Mid-South. And again, as you heard Ken Weaver so expertly say, yes, we have some rain there. We do need some water, but we have concerns about flash flooding given just how hard and dry the ground is. It will run off very quickly, and that can cause a lot of problem. Low threat, we could see a tornado or two Thursday into Friday as the system moves into our area, and this is one that you need to watch. Again, we'll have plenty of time to prepare for it, but you should get ready. I mean, as it turns out, at my house, guys, I'm pretty excited about this.
Yeah.
They're coming to fertilize tomorrow.
All right.
So, I mean, just right.
That's a lot more grass for you to mow.
Well, I don't mind mowing the grass, but I mean, getting the timing right on the fertilization and then some rain.
Yeah.
That's always the challenge when you're a dry land farmer like me.
Yeah. That's right.
And I'm a dry land farmer, and the only thing I grow right now is grass and a few weeds. But I'm hoping to have fewer weeds and more grass. And you got to you can't put the fertilizer down and then just let it sit there; it'll burn.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, I have a great story though about my mom. And she, used to be when I was a kid in Texas. A lot of people didn't put any fertilizer on their yard. My dad was very meticulous about his yard. And he told my mom, go get some fertilizer. And you used to, in those days, get your fertilizer down at the gas station. Mm-hmm. They would say, you go in, you fill up your tank, and you would put 2 or 3 bags of fertilizer in the back of your deal. And then they would rent you a spreader, right? Mm-hmm. And then, my mom took it home. And what my dad had anticipated was that she would wait and that he would put down the fertilizer. But she felt like, well, they want that spreader back as soon as possible, so I will go ahead and put down the fertilizer. And she didn't know how to set the machine correctly.
Oh.
And she put down, and it looked like a snowstorm had occurred on the yard. And my dad came home and saw it, and he just said, oh my gosh, the only thing you can do here is turn on the water and water and water and water and water. Otherwise, the whole lawn would have been gone.
Yeah.
Well, he put so much water on it, and that grass We had the most unbelievable lawn, the thickest grass you've ever seen anywhere in Odessa, Texas.
It's like a jungle.
And I'm telling you, you couldn't get your mower through it. It was that thick.
Yeah.
And, so he always told my mom, never again. I'll put down the fertilizer. Thank you for the effort. Really appreciate it, hon, but I'll be sure and do that. So, getting the timing right when there's, and especially when you don't have, I have 2 acres. I can't water 2 acres.
No,
I can't. I guess I could empty out my pool. I could empty out my pool and do that, but I'm not going to do that. But I don't. So I got to count on the rain, and so the timing on this is doing pretty good for me. All right, on that exciting note, it's 30 minutes now past the hour. Time for the news.
4:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. And again, hurricane watches going up for Louisiana with a tropical storm Francine headed that way. Looks like Middle Tennessee could start seeing some impacts of it on Thursday. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Local, state, and federal authorities still focused on the woods and the search for accused Kentucky highway shooting suspect Joseph Couch there right in between Lexington and Knoxville.
If he's dead or alive, it's our job to try to find him. And that's what we're going to do.
As Kentucky State Police Master Trooper Scotty Pennington asking residents stay out of the rugged, hilly area there, 75 miles south of Lexington. A 15-year-old student's in critical condition and a suspect in custody after a shooting at an Omaha Northwest high school in Nebraska. The suspect is a student, and that suspect is in custody. Police say it was an isolated incident between the students. Here in Middle Tennessee, Channel 4 says there's a push to get metal detectors in schools to protect against shootings. Reporter Jordan Quigley.
J.C. Bowman with Professional Educators of Tennessee says metal detectors could be crucial in catching more than just firearms, knives, or vapes, too. We talked to some parents who say they wouldn't be against them, but their main priority was SROs.
Now, Metro Nashville schools and others have or are installing technology that detects firearms before someone's able to take them inside. And on Wall Street, Michelle Franzen.
A mixed finish for stocks on Wall Street as different issues weigh on investors. The Dow fell 93 points, the S&P up 24, the Nasdaq gained 141. Gains in several big tech stocks like Microsoft and Amazon pulled up the Nasdaq while banks offset the gains elsewhere. Ally Financial sank almost 17% after its chief financial officer warned borrowers are struggling with inflation, cost of living, and weakening employment picture. Energy producers were hurt by a drop in oil prices. A barrel of Brent crude is near its lowest price since 2021. That's because OPEC, the organization of the petroleum exporting countries, cut its global forecast for this year and pulled back expectations for next year. The next inflation report is due tomorrow. Analysts expect year-over-year inflation of 2.6%. The Federal Reserve Board will be watching the number closely.
That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Let me tell you about King & Associates Insurance in Brentwood. They've been there for over 25 years as an independent agency, and trust me when I say that's exactly what you want, an independent agency. King & Insurance, when you say an independent agency, what is it? Well, it's an agency that doesn't have to just sell you one product that they happen to have on the shelf, like the big internet companies do. They can sell you a policy that actually meets your very needs, and that's what you want. That way you get more insurance bang for your buck, and that's what you want. You want to get the best insurance for the least amount of money. And here's the other thing. You call this number, 615-329-8121. You don't reach a call center. You don't get a phone tree. You don't get a recording. You get an actual human being every single time who will answer your questions or find somebody very quickly who can answer your questions. They're the kings of the multi-policy discount, 20, 25, 30, 35%. Huge savings are possible. So get your royal review with King & Associates today. Log on to tkinginsurance.com. That's tkinginsurance.com. King Insurance & Associates, royal treatment and great rates.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
It is 38 minutes now past the hour. What's going on with you folks? Come on, let's have a little noise out there. We've got almost, believe it or not, at 4:38, almost a full house here already. A lot of people have come early to secure a place, but there's still a lot of room here on the sides. A few open tables still here, so make your way on down to the Cedar Creek Marina, Scoreboard Restaurant, good place to get some good food, adult beverages, hang out as we prepare for tonight's debate party. I'll be joined by the other guys, Dan Mandis, Chris Hand, Matt Murphy. I don't know, whenever they wander in, that usually happens in the 5 o'clock hour. So we'll get to them soon, and then we're going to be here all the way until the debate begins at 8 o'clock. We're extending our coverage tonight, so if you want to come and get a place to sit, come on down now. Love to have you. I want to go through some sound on some other stories. We're going to be talking about the debate endlessly as the guys start to show up here in just a little bit. But there's some other stories that I wanted to bring your attention to, and I want to start out by this. We all think Melania Trump is just about it, right? I mean, she's so cool, she's so calm, she's so collected, she's so beautiful. She was an elegant first lady. Everybody loved Melania. Well, apparently she's written a book, and the book is about to come out. And right now, she is putting out what are called teasers, so that we see her talking about her book, and that, of course, encourages us to buy it. But you know what she wants to talk about in those teasers? That day in Butler, Pennsylvania. Here is Melania Trump.
The attempt to end my husband's life was a horrible, distressing experience. Now, the silence around it feels heavy. I can't help but wonder, why didn't law enforcement officials arrest the shooter before the speech? There is definitely more to this story, and we need to uncover the truth.
Well, that's that. Then they show you the book and ask you to make an early purchase of the book. Very interesting that she believes that there's something up there and that there are other answers to be gotten. One of the things that I'm having a hard time with is, as I mentioned to you, maybe I think it was yesterday, I had a conversation with Mark Green, Congressman Mark Green, a member of our congressional delegation here in Tennessee, but also for purposes of this conversation, he's serving on this special committee that will look into the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. He told me that they now have talked to somebody who was in the room in the command center, someone who worked for the State Patrol, and that person received a picture of the shooter using the rangefinder to measure the distance between where he was and the podium. And they got a picture of him. They snapped a picture of it. It went to that trooper in the command center. The trooper then takes his phone, goes over to the person in charge of the Secret Service Command Center, and shows them a picture of this suspicious individual who's using a rangefinder. This is 30 minutes before the Donald Trump takes the stage. And they let him take the stage without knowing where that individual was or what that individual was up to. I think there are real questions about that. How could that possibly have been allowed? So Melania is asking a question that many Americans are asking, and she seems to say that she has questions about why this was allowed and why this person was not interdicted on some level, even if not arrested, questioned. Why not questioned? Why not ask that person, rattle that person's cage? Why have you got a rangefinder? What are you doing? What are you up to? Why are you walking here? Just ask that person. That probably would have been enough to chase the guy off. You never know. And on that topic, there is this story. U.S. Secret Service Assistant Director asked to retire over the Butler assassination attempt on Trump. This comes from FoxNews.com. A high-ranking leader within the United States Secret Service has been asked to retire, Fox News Digital has learned. Michael Platty, the Office of Protective Operations Assistant Director, has been asked to retire from his position and is ending his tenure with the service in the coming days. The decision reportedly linked with the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump in Butler, PA, a security failure that has sent shockwaves through all levels of the agency. The United Secret Service is preparing to brief Congress in the coming days about lessons learned from the July 13th attempt on Trump's life. Platty was asked to step down by Cedar senior leadership, including Acting Director Ronald Rowe. So that will happen. More on the story. USS Director Kimberly Cheadle, as you know, resigned under mounting pressure on July 23rd following the assassination attempt. The Department of Defense has since offered the U.S. Secret Service additional assistance in protecting political figures that require personal security. Anthony Guglielmi, who is the U.S. Secret Service Chief of Communication, announced last month the DoD will provide additional assistance, including logistics, transportation, and communications through the 2024 campaign season. And so that's what we know. Melania has questions, and the assistant director has been asked to retire over the Butler assassination attempt, the person who is responsible for protective operations, Michael Platty. So new developments there. Interesting, you need to remember one thing about this. The Secret Service is conducting an investigation into what went wrong. The FBI is conducting an investigation into the shooter, not into the Secret Service. Secret Service will make no recommendations about how the FBI will make no recommendations as to how the Secret Service should operate going forward. This is all being handled by the Secret Service. It's an internal investigation. You do have Congress doing an investigation. You do have the Office of the Inspector General at the Secret Service doing an investigation. But at the end of the day, the FBI's only role here will be to learn about the shooter and to button all that up and not really look beyond that particular part of the story. Another piece of sound I want to play for you this half hour before things get focused on the debate exclusively is James O'Keefe. You know James O'Keefe, he's that guy who goes out and organizes these hidden camera videos of people. Well, he has a new one, and it's a woman who works for O'Keefe who is on what you could extensively call a date with a key player over at Google, and that individual is laying out a lot of information about the procedures at Google, and if this person is speaking accurately, it raises a lot of questions. Here is that individual from Google talking to, quote unquote, I'm using air quotes here, his date for that evening.
Google was essentially promoting through its ads rhetoric that was very pro Kamala, and it seemed to link out to legitimate news publication sites. So it seemed like it was an ad from PBS, but it was really an ad for the Kamala campaign or whatever.
Meet Dakota Lieser, growth strategist and ad salesman at Google. Dakota Lieser goes on to say they're, quote, reorienting the search engine to favor Kamala Harris.
But it's you go to Google, they're reorienting the search engine such that Kamala is more, favored. Facebook, I feel is promoting, content that is favorable towards her. A lot of the AI stuff that's sort of proliferating right now is doing so in a way that's generally favorable to her.
Dakota Lieser, growth strategist at Google, reveals that, quote, Google is a very progressive company, unquote. He admits that, quote, Google will allow a belief that one side will allow them to make more money.
I mean, Google's a very liberal, progressive company. If they have a belief that one side will allow them to make more money, I don't think it's at the very, very top, I don't think it's political. I think it's economic. I think it's all about the share or the stock price.
The Google growth strategist suggests that political headlines help generate ad revenue for Google.
These political headlines that are generating clicks, which generates ad revenue, it's all fueled out of hate.
So there you have it. Google is slanting the algorithms in favor of, are we shocked, stunned, and amazed by this? No, we're not shocked, stunned, amazed. No, it is slanting the algorithms toward Kamala Harris and away from Donald Trump and giving positive information about Kamala Harris and negative information about Donald Trump. The other day when it was pointed out that if you ask, Siri a question about Donald Trump, you were told, well, I can't get into politics. That would be the answer. If you ask, what would make Kamala Harris a good president, you got a lovely dissertation on her glowing qualities as a candidate. They say, oh, that was just a mistake. Well, was it? Was it really? They say they fixed it. Who knows? But I mean, social media it would appear once again slanted in the direction of one side and not the other. Why can't we have an even playing field? Now, I got one more piece of sound to share with you. Over at CNN, they got a guy who comes on, and he's called the K-File, and he researches certain things, and it almost seems like lately he comes in with these sort of conservative perspectives that you might not otherwise hear on CNN, and he brings the K-File report. In this particular report, he's talking about an ACLU questionnaire that was filled out by Kamala Harris in the last election, in the year 2019. And she laid out positions in that questionnaire that she no longer holds today. And the people at CNN are shocked, stunned, and amazed by this. Take a listen.
Kamala Harris releasing details of her policy positions for the first time on her campaign website. A K-file investigation has uncovered, meantime, a 2019 questionnaire. And in this questionnaire, Harris laid out some much more liberal stances, among them on immigration. So in 2019, in what K-file found, she said she would cut funding to ICE, writing, quote, "Our immigrant detention system is out of control, and I believe we must end the unfair incarceration of thousands of individuals, families, and children. I was one of the first senators after President Trump was elected to advocate for a decrease in funding to ICE." Well, now, of course, she's touting the Biden administration's executive order to crack down on the border. K-File's Andrew Kaczynski joins me now. Andrew, that's pretty incredible on its own when you're talking about what you found here on ICE. What else did you find?
Yeah, and this was a questionnaire that she filled out for the ACLU, and this questionnaire is really an interesting snapshot in time of that 2019 Democratic primary. Kamala Harris was trying to get to the left of Bernie Sanders. She was trying to get to the left of Elizabeth Warren, and you really see that in a lot of these answers. And I want to walk our viewers through a little bit of what she said. Let's just take immigration and look at what she said here. She said on immigration, she made this open-ended pledge to end immigrant detention. She said she supported taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. She also said she supported
taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. She actually said she supported that.
She both wrote and answered in the affirmative when she was asked this. And she said she also supported it for federal prisoners. Now, she also pledged to slash immigration detention by 50%, close all family and private facilities, and decrease funding for ICE, and then the end ICE detainers with local law enforcement.
I mean, these are things that, you know, it would be hard to think that you would come up with taxpayer funding gender transitions for detained migrants, and yet this, as you say, written and verbally. You know, what else, you know, did you find?
Well, let's take a look at her answer here on drugs. She got asked about, the question from the ACLU was, since drug use is better addressed as a public health issue through treatment and other programming, will you support the decriminalization at the federal level of all drug possession for personal use? And Harris answers yes. Now, what would that mean? Well, it mean the federal all drug possession. That's not just marijuana, which she alluded to in her answer to this question, but it also would mean
it's federal level of all drug possession,
fentanyl, crack,
use.
Cocaine, things like that. Yeah.
Have they responded to you on her changes on these issues?
So we did put this question to the Harris campaign about the entire ACLU questionnaire, and the Harris campaign didn't answer any questions from CNN. Instead, they just provided a statement from an unnamed Harris campaign advisor that just said, the vice president's positions have been shaped by 3 years of effective governance as part of the Biden-Harris administration. Now, they declined to CNN to elaborate on what those positions were. And then they also provided this statement, which they attributed to a spokesperson saying, as president, she will take that same pragmatic approach, focusing on common sense solutions for the sake of progress. So where does she stand on this, all this questionnaire today? We don't know, and they won't say.
It's pretty incredible stuff, and thank you very much.
She says her principles hasn't changed. That's because apparently she has no principles. It is 52 minutes past the hour. Hey, here's a question for you. Your retirement assets structured to minimize taxes. Hard to believe, but many hardworking Americans just like you could be overpaying on taxes in retirement. You may be taxed on your IRA, your 401k, and any other tax-deferred retirement accounts. Beacon Capital Management is here to give you peace of mind. With the threat of massive tax increases just around the corner, your nest egg could be in trouble unless you take advantage of defensive tax-saving strategies now. Defend your hard-earned retirement savings by scheduling a free retirement tax reduction analysis today. No cost, no pressure, no obligation. If you've saved more than $250,000 for retirement, don't wait any longer. Schedule your free retirement tax reduction analysis from Beacon. Just call this number, 615-488-9303, or visit askbeaconnow.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hey, you know, if you're a fan of Legend Steakhouse like I am, you can enjoy some of those same flavors right at home on your very own grill. Just take a walk down your local grocery store aisles, places like Walmart and Kroger, and look for Johnny Fleeman's very own brand. Johnny Fleeman's Marinade proprietary blend will give your steaks, chicken, or chops a flavor that will hit a home run with family and friends. It's low in sodium, about a third of the other brands. You don't have to worry about over-marinating. And when it comes to his honey mustard salad dressing, use it as a salad dressing or maybe a dipping sauce for your favorite chicken fingers, fresh-cut veggies, or chips, a recipe used in his restaurants for over 35 years. If your favorite grocer isn't stocking Johnny Fleeman products, ask them to do so. For more information, just go to johnnyfleeman.com. And it goes without saying, for those times when you want someone else to do the cooking, they'll always be glad to see you at your nearest Legend Steakhouse for lunch or for dinner.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we're expecting waves of rain from Tropical Storm Francine by Thursday, but it could spawn severe storms with that rain. We'll have to be weather aware. Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. A 15-year-old student is in critical condition and a suspect in custody after a shooting today at Omaha Northwest High School in Nebraska. Student Daniel Westcott described the scene.
He's just on the ground, like blood just coming out his chest, and the girls start running on trying to help him and stuff.
Now, authorities say this was an isolated incident between these two students. Right now in Tennessee, Channel 4 is reporting on a push for metal detectors in schools. J.C. Bowman with Professional Educators of Tennessee says they could be crucial in catching more than just guns, knives, and vapes, too. Right now, Metro Nashville Public Schools and others around the state have or are installing technology that detects firearms using AI. And in Nashville, enhanced safety measures downtown in the wake of Riley Strain's death. Channel 4's Steve Mailing says temporary fencing has gone up to keep people from falling into the Cumberland River.
The fencing stretches from First Avenue to the Main Street Bridge. While Strain's death brought concerns to light, more recently, first responders found a woman alive down by the banks of the river in this same stretch. Metro Council member Jacob Coupin says this is the start of safety measures he hopes to bring to the area. He says people unfamiliar with the terrain could be caught off guard.
After Riley's situation, I had spent more time than I had previously along that riverfront and noticed that there were sections that, people might walk past and walk down, and there's a pretty large drop off. So I advocated for additional fencing and security there.
Yeah, Councilmember Coupin also mentioned a support program called the Red Frogs, which recently obtained a permit that hands out snacks, water, and help to people to get where they're going downtown on Friday nights. And in our nation's capital, Congress is back in session, and there was a rare bipartisan moment. The top 4 congressional leaders stood side by side to honor the 13 service members killed in an attack during the Afghanistan withdrawal 3 years ago.
Under the U.S. Capitol Rotunda, the Gold Star families accepting the Congressional Gold Medal, the highest honor on behalf of their loved ones who were killed in a terrorist bombing attack at Abbey Gate near Kabul's airport in 2021. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries.
We reverently honor 13 patriots.
It comes as Republicans have pointed the finger at President Biden for the messy pullout in Afghanistan. Speaker Mike Johnson saying,
to the families who are here, I know many of you have yet to hear these words, so I will say them. We are sorry.
Wynn, ABC News, Washington.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Oh, there you go. That was completely organic, not planned at all. I want you to know that. Hey, we're live at Cedar Creek Marina over at Scoreboards, where people are gathering for the big debate party tonight. Already, Chris Hadd has arrived on the scene, said hello. He's milling about, talking to people, taking selfies, etc. Got a big day planned here. All the guys will be showing up probably in the next hour or so, and then we'll have everybody sitting here at the table together, talking about the coming debate at 6 o'clock. We'll do an a bonus hour of the drive this evening between 7 and 8, and then at 8 o'clock we will carry the debate live tonight. I think it's very hard to underestimate how important this debate is. This debate has the potential to completely change the character of this race. I mean, let's be honest, where we are right now, you know, you see some polls where Harris is up a little, you see some polls where Trump is up a little, but the bottom line is it's all within the margin of error. It is pretty much deadlocked, and the real question is what will happen after this debate? Will there be a moment that defines this debate, that changes minds? We know an awful lot about Donald Trump. I think this is his 7th debate, I think, if I heard correctly the other day. But we haven't heard much from Kamala Harris. She's not been talking to reporters. She's not been answering questions. And so tonight will be the first opportunity to get a good look at Kamala Harris. And, each side has a lot to try to accomplish here. So I'm Brian Wilson. You're listening to The Drive. Again, we're at Scoreboard at Cedar Creek Marina in Mount Juliet. I would say pretty full house already, not packed. Still room for a lot of folks to come down. We'll squeeze in. We'll make nice. There's sort of some room on the sides where you can still hear the program and see what's going on. So come on down and join us. And I say the rest of the guys will join us probably in the next hour. So the folks at the Epoch Times have written an article, what to watch for in the Trump-Harris debate, and I think it's pretty good. I think it sort of lays things out. So here we go. Let me run through some of this stuff. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump head into a presidential debate virtually tied in national polling, raising the stakes for a showdown that could prove pivotal in the 2024 election. The election is really sitting on a knife's edge. On the Electoral College, said Henry Olson, a senior fellow with the Ethics and Public Policy Center. One point in either direction is something that could really matter. We ask at the Epoch Times, political experts explain what candidates must do to perform well in this debate and what could happen if they don't. So let's start with Harris. This is what they came up with. Winning or losing this debate could come down to which candidate does the better job of defining Kamala Harris, which will likely be the goal of both sides. We've seen Trump now forever, but we've not seen Kamala Harris as much, said Aaron Dussault, a professor of political science at Indiana University. So there's probably a bit more at stake here where she continues to introduce herself to the country. Some 31% of the voters say they need to know more about Harris, according to a September 5th poll by the New York Times and Siena College. Of those, 63% said they wanted to learn more about Harris' policies. They don't know what her policies are, and she likes it that way, I think. Kamala Harris needs to speak substantively and with some level of detail about policy. Matthew Wilson, a political science professor at Southern Methodist University, told the Epoch Times. She's been very ambiguous about her policy stands and policy goals, so I think she'll be pushed on that. By the way, she did publish some information about what her positions are, and they're still rather ambiguous. Harris, who's been criticized by the Trump campaign for her lack of policy specifics, published a list of policies on her campaign site over the weekend. Story continued. Beyond that, Harris will likely aim to present herself as a person of gravitas, someone who can be trusted with the responsibility of the Oval Office. Harris has to come across as presidential, serious. She can make hard decisions, go toe-to-toe with world leaders, said Ken Coleman, professor of politics at the University of Michigan. It's a mistake for her to lean into the joy emotion in this venue. What she needs to do is convince people that she's has not just the temperament, but the fortitude to be somebody who's in command. Harris spent several days preparing for the debate and advisors in a Pittsburgh hotel, refining 2-minute responses to various questions. I think the thing you got to understand about her is that she won't have notes. She won't have the vice president sitting there holding her hand figuratively. It's going to be the first time where she's sitting there all alone. And by the way, did you understand this? I did not know this until yesterday. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have never met face-to-face ever. They've never met one another. The first time that they meet will be on that debate stage. And we know Donald Trump. I think what we're finding is we don't know much about Kamala Harris, and that will be what they try to do today is sort of figure out what she is and what she stands for. As for Trump appearing in his 7th presidential debate, he doesn't need to introduce himself to voters. I think what Trump needs to do is define Harris by her record, both as part of the Biden administration and what she said and did as a senator, said one of the political experts. That's exactly what Trump will do, according to his close associates. His goal will be to convince Americans that Harris not only agreed with, but was responsible for the policies of the current administration. It's very clear that Kamala Harris is the one who's been running the country the entire time. Jason Miller, a senior campaign advisor, told reporters on September 9th, "You can't talk about turning the page when you're the one who created our nightmare." Representative Matt Gaetz began to lay that groundwork in a call with reporters the day before the debate. Quote, "She has a record as district attorney and as attorney general. That record is dangerously liberal. President Trump is going to tie her to that record during the debate. Look for Trump to call Harris to account for the increase in illegal immigration during the past 3 years. Call her to be responsible for inflation and the handling of the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. And on the positive side, Trump is likely to describe his administration as a time when the world was relatively free from conflict and Americans enjoyed lower prices for fuel and grocery. It would do him a lot of good to project that aura of reassurance and to try to play on voters' nostalgia for the way things were 5 years ago. Trump will be participating in his 7th debate, did not make a major break in his campaign schedule to prepare for the debate, but continued to hold rallies. He doesn't do the traditional debate preparations. In other words, they don't set him down and do mock debates like they have done with Kamala. He just gets boned up on all of the information that he needs to talk about and talk about overall our overarching strategy. The danger points. I think this is important. Biden's halting debate performance against Trump in June brought increased pressure from party insiders for him to withdraw from the race, which he did a month later. Our experts said a disastrous result in this debate is unlikely, but a poor performance could hurt either candidate. For Trump, the biggest mistake would be to become too aggressive, alienating undecided voters by appearing overbearing or self-absorbed. The former president must avoid giving the impression that he lacked self-control, which clearly was something that he failed to do in the first debate with Biden in the 2020. Going back to 2020, not a particularly good debate. That means not interrupting Harris or appearing domineering, according to Wilson, who say she may try to bait Trump into creating a viral moment where he appears overly aggressive. I think that's why they wanted the microphones to be open. I think they wanted to bait him. They wanted to sort of goad him into doing something that looks aggressive. And that would play, I think, into their hands. When we have asked people on the phones, if you were advising Donald Trump, what would you say? It seems like the advice that everybody gave was, don't be overbearing, be polite, look for your opportunities, take your jabs when you can get them, but otherwise, just try to draw her out and try to be polite, not overwhelming, not bombastic. Not interrupting Harris, not to appear domineering, I think, is probably really good advice for Donald Trump. The big danger for her, and that's if she decides to head too far down the path of I need to add one more fact, I'm going to fact check Donald Trump every time he says something, giving Trump's unorthodox debating style, keeping him in check would be difficult, according to do so. He jumps from one thing to the next. You've only got 2 minutes to respond. She needs to be able to explain herself well and not go into meaningless word salad. We get one or two good word salads out of this, it'll be a good debate for Donald Trump. I think he's going to lie. He has a playbook that he's used in the past. Harris said in a radio interview that aired on September 9th. Trump predicted the media reports about the debate would skew in Harris's favor. You know, if I destroy her in the debate, they say Trump suffered a humiliating defeat tonight. So it'll be interesting. And here's the thing. How much of what happens in this debate is controllable by either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris? Or is it mostly going to be controlled by the kinds of questions that ask? David Muir, an anchor on the nightly news on ABC, is he going to be asking the kinds of question that elicits the response that we hope we can get out of this thing? And will there be a fair asking of the questions? Hardball questions are not out of order in this environment. But if you only ask hardball questions of one side, that's unfair. So it'll be interesting to see whether the folks at ABC News can even recognize that there's an alternative view of the things that are going on in the world and ask questions from that vantage point. It'll be very, very interesting to watch. Now, the debate begins here at 8 o'clock, and as I mentioned, we're going to be live from Scoreboard Restaurant in Cedar Creek Marina in Mount Juliet. Already a pretty good crowd in attendance. They're here. They're eating food. They're having an adult beverage. They're settling in for a long night. Dan Mann has just arrived on the scene. We have Chris Hand has arrived on the scene. They're out mixing and mingling with everyone. So come on down to Scoreboard Arena and get settled in for what could be a very interesting night, a night that could well change the nature, the whole tone and tenor of this election as we head closer and closer to Election Day. 20 minutes now past the hour. Hey, let me tell you about the folks at Restoration Wellness and Med Spa, the team over there in Wilson County. They are the leaders in weight loss management. Call the Restoration Wellness team today at 615-470-8124 or visit them at their website, restorationwellnessmedspa.com, to book a consult today. Now, when you get over there, you're going to meet my friends Carly and Jamie, who will take care of you like you're one of their own, just a part of the family, be part of the 1,000 patients more who have actually seen life-changing results from weight loss management programs at Restoration Wellness and Med Spa. And I am one of them, down 25 pounds. Weight loss can increase your energy levels, improve your quality of sleep, enhance your overall health. These are customized treatment plans, not one size fits all. When I went in, they asked me about my needs, my lifestyle, my goals, and they came up with a plan that works for me. So whether your goal is to lose stubborn body fat or improve your overall health, Restoration Wellness has a solution for you. Find out about the newest techniques in weight loss management. Just go to restorationwellnessmedspa.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Another high school, the scene of a shooting today, and temporary measures are in place to keep people from falling into the Cumberland River downtown. These stories and more at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 25 minutes now past the hour. There's Ken Weber in the newsroom, Chris Weber in the control room. I'm Brian Wilson at Cedar Creek Marina in Mount Juliet, where we're hanging out at Scoreboards, and a lot of other people are hanging out with us. Dan Mandis has arrived. Chris Hand is here. We're waiting on the imminent arrival of Matt Murphy. And you know, the trumpets will hail as he arrives. So there we go. I got a few more minutes before we get into, by the way, remember, Three Amigos coming up. Right after the news here in just a short bit. It's a new fan favorite. It's a new old fan favorite. And that's coming up at 35 minutes past the hour. While we have a few more minutes, let me tell you about this. I thought this was very interesting. I mentioned to you yesterday about the polls that I were looking at that indicate like maybe Kamala Harris had hit the high water mark. And then I spent a lot of time talking about the internals of that poll and what they show. The folks at the Hill have done that as well, and I think this is very interesting and maybe signals that something has changed. Something has started to shift, that Kamala Harris's high water mark has come and gone, and that she's going to have real trouble in the battleground states. You ready for this? The new poll shows Vice President Harris faces a major challenge in winning over male voters and is losing men by a larger margin than she's winning women in key states such as Pennsylvania, Nevada, and North Carolina. The gender gap between Democrats and Republicans isn't new, but it's becoming especially pronounced in the toss-up rate for president. Former President Trump's problems with female voters are well known. New polls show that Harris has just as big a problem with male voters in some states. At the Democrat convention last month, Harris and her political team largely downplayed her chance of making history by becoming the first woman elected president, and political experts say male voters in some parts of the country remain leery about putting a woman in Oval Office. It's not about being a woman. It's about the positions you hold. I don't think that America is unready for a woman president if it's the right woman. A senior Senate Democrat aide said sexism and misogyny are still powerful forces in the country's battleground states. I don't agree with that. It was glossed over when people said everyone hated Hillary. Well, Hillary was uniquely unlikable as a candidate. It wasn't the fact that she was a woman. It was just that she was so very unlikable. Ultimately, you know, there are people who vote on policy. There are people who vote on you know, are you a conservative or are you a liberal? But there are also people who vote on whether or not you like the individual. And she was inherently unlikable on the campaign trail and seemed to be always looking down her nose at the electorate. Basket of deplorables. Remember that one? Clinton lost the male vote to Trump in 2016 by 11 points, 41% to 52%, while she won the female vote by 13 points. Trump's campaign has tried to exploit the gender divide by saturating battleground states with advertising focused on the economy, inflation, illegal immigration, and crime. These are things designed to appeal to younger male voters. In the battle, I don't know that I agree with that statement. I think those are issues that resonate with everyone. It's a battle of the sexes, said Ross K. Baker, professor of political science at Rutgers University, that's in New Jersey, regarding the trend of male voters turning toward Trump and away from Harris. The feeling is that for every advance women make, men necessarily lose. Boy, I'm telling you, the deeper I get into this article, the more I'm sort of offended. I'm offended by the positions that they think that men hold. I don't think that men have a problem with voting for a woman if the woman has great policies and if a woman has the kind of leadership skills that you think she needs. I don't think that America is unready for a woman president. But I do think that America is unready for this particular woman president. So there you have that. You know, apparently, though, they are looking at the polls and they're coming up with the idea that in battleground states, the gender gap is a real thing. Trump has more men than Harris has women. And that'll be interesting to see how it all plays out in the coming days as we watch this thing more closely. Brian Wilson coming to you live from Cedar Creek Marina. And at Scoreboard's restaurant, the guys are all starting to show up. The 6 o'clock hour, all four hands will be on deck. In the meantime, it is 30 minutes past the hour and time for the news on Super Talk 99.7.
.5:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We are tracking what could be waves of rain once Tropical Storm Francine makes its way up to Middle Tennessee, expected around mid-morning on Thursday. Right now, it's getting ready to hammer the Louisiana coast, and there is a hurricane watch up for parts of the Gulf Coast. But right now, Francine's still just a tropical storm. We've got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Had another shooting at another high school today, this time Northwest High School in Omaha, Nebraska.
The victim of the shooting was a 15-year-old male. The victim was transported to a local hospital in critical condition.
That is Omaha Police Deputy Cherie Thomas, who says another student's in custody, and this incident is isolated between the two students. Temporary fencing has gone up to keep people on Lower Broad from falling into the Cumberland River. Channel 4 says it's where Metro Police believe Riley Strain fell down the embankment and into the river and was found dead 2 weeks later. More recently, a woman was found alive in the same area, emerging from the embankment, soaking wet, hours after becoming separated from friends. Metro Council member Jacob Coupin telling Channel 4 the fencing is temporary while officials work on a permanent fix.
I want people to access the river. I want people to get to the river. I want people to be able to safely enjoy it.
Coupin also mentioned a support program called the Red Frogs, which recently obtained a permit to hand out snacks, water, and even walk people to their vehicles or hotels on Friday nights. And right now in Middle Tennessee, singer Darius Rucker will serve 11 months and 29 days probation after drugs were found in his car. Channel 4's Marissa Sulik was there and has details from court.
Today, alongside his attorneys, Rucker pled no contest to one count of simple possession. That means he accepted his punishment of a 1-year probation without admitting guilt or denying the charges. Rucker was pulled over by law enforcement back in 2023 when they found THC, a blunt, and psychedelics in his car. It took an entire year before authorities issued an arrest warrant February of this year.
Are you pleading no contest to simple possession of control? Yes, Your Honor.
Media reached out to Rucker afterwards today to see if he had any comment. He declined and walked upstairs, but his attorney did give us this statement that reads in part, Darius looks forward to working through this probationary period and putting this all behind him.
That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
You know, many of you have lived in this area for a long, long time, and you know about Eurofix. They've been in Middle Tennessee. They've been a place to go for European car repair now for some 24 years, and you've watched them grow. Well, I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, the folks at Eurofix are now proud to announce a 5th location for Eurofix in Mount Juliet, where we're at today, on Mount Juliet Road, right across from the Dairy Queen. Eurofix can serve you now in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and Mount Juliet. It's pretty cool getting to watch a guy who started a small-town mechanic who started in a barn in the backyard of his single-wide trailer grow to 5 locations, repairing thousands of cars each month. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. Here's what you do. Just call this number 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEuroFix.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
There it is, 37 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. Time for the Three Amigos, the ever-popular Three Amigos. It's Ken Weaver in the newsroom, Chris Weber
good
in the
morning,
control room.
afternoon, after whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, it's hard to... How many times have you started to say good morning?
Old habits die hard.
I know that's really hard. You're exactly right about that. Ken Weaver in the newsroom, Chris Weber in the control room. I'm Brian Wilson coming to you live from Mount Juliet as we're preparing for tonight's festivities here, the big debate watch party. But the Three Amigos, the idea here is we each bring a story that we found interesting, and we all just kind of chew the fat. And we don't know where it's going to go. There's a lot of fat to be chewed among these three, so we just get on with it. All right, who wants to go first today? I went first yesterday.
What about you, Brother Chris?
All right, I'll go first.
All right.
This one comes from the Netherlands. It's involving a Dutch. Well, this is weird, by the way, because I'm hearing myself echoing.
I know.
Over the PA there, so it's a little disconcerting. But anyway, a Dutch couple had a bad breakup, and everybody can kind of relate to this. Things don't always end great when relationships come to an end. Yeah. You just have to kind of do your best to move on with your life. Well, this fella apparently could not move on with his life and did not want to end things, at least in the way that the female party did. He said the only way he was able to get his stuff back was to mail himself to his girlfriend's apartment. So he put himself in a box and had himself delivered to the shared apartment, or once shared apartment, to, quote, to get his stuff back. And the woman says that when he emerged from the box, he threatened her with a gun and then took off with the keys to the house. So police obviously go to the address where the man is living currently to check on him. Says they did not find a gun, but did find those keys to the apartment. And then he started bombarding the woman with emails and created social media accounts in her name. After this event, it doesn't end here. After this happened.
Why wasn't the guy arrested right off the bat?
I don't know. Maybe he was, and it was, one of those sort of restraining order situations. I'm not exactly sure. The story doesn't say, and of course this is the Netherlands, so things
he
are a
had
little
the proper
different there.
postage.
Apparently he did, yeah. But it didn't end there. After the box incident, the woman placed a camera in her apartment. Just to be sure, which is probably not a bad idea, she caught footage of the man in her house 3 more times, one of which placing a tracking device behind some sort of cooking utensil or cooking appliance in the kitchen. And the man then claimed that the woman had given him permission to visit the apartment those other times and that the keys were given to him and were not taken by him once he emerged from the box. But that didn't impress the judge, apparently, and he did then sentence him, after all of this is said and done, to 4 months in jail and a 3-year restraining order. So let that be a lesson to you. Use FedEx or UPS. Maybe. I don't know.
Wonder how long he was in that box.
Yeah, did he have holes punched in the box?
Were there holes punched in it? And what did the lady do? Oh, here's a large box, ma'am. Shall we bring it in? Well, I'm not expecting anything, but yeah.
Oh, it's a 200-pound box? Yeah, come on, bring it in.
I have one of the things that caught my ear is put a tracking device behind a utensil.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. Well, why would you put a tracker in a place that doesn't move? But he did mail himself to his ex-girlfriend, so he probably wasn't the
this guy's
brightest
not dealing with a full deck.
Yeah, probably not.
How did was it airmail? Was it? I mean, do we know anything about it?
It was Amazon.
Amazon.
Well, after that poop package that we talked about last week, that wouldn't surprise me.
That's bizarre. That's just completely bizarre. All right, Ken, you're up.
All right, well, New Hampshire's governor has helped save a man choking on a lobster roll at an eating contest.
See, these eating contests are dangerous.
I'm telling you, man, this is from the Associated Press. Meredith, New Hampshire. Christian Moreno was choking on a lobster roll at his very first competitive eating contest when a man to the side of the stage noticed what was happening and rushed over to give him the Heimlich maneuver.
Wow.
Turns out it was New Hampshire's Governor Chris Sununu. Video shows him lifting Moreno off his feet, squeezing him until he chokes it up.
Wow.
And then Moreno goes right back to eating.
He wasn't going to take this lightly, man. These are the contests. He's here to win.
Yeah, I'm fine. Give me some more. Bring me another lobster roll. That's right.
Wonder if they counted that one that he got. Did it count?
Oh, you know what? I don't even know. What if he had to pick it up and eat it again? Sorry about that, folks.
Yeah, I mean, counted it when it went down, counted it again when it went down the second time. I don't know.
That seems like cheating. I don't know.
They deduct it when it came up. That's the question.
Exactly. Sununu said it was the first time it performed the maneuver, which is also known as abdominal thrust. He says, I'm just glad I paid attention in my high school health class.
Yeah,
so,
have you ever seen it done on anybody? I've never seen it happen. But I've seen videos, and I mean, it really is when you apply it correctly, that whatever it is that's clogging the airway just literally pops out of your mouth and goes across the room.
Yeah,
can land 10 feet away.
Yeah, you're supposed to hit the diaphragm in a certain way, and it causes that gag reflex, and it's supposed to pop it right out. I one time had to do some abdominal thrusts on a fella in the newsroom in Tulsa.
Really?
Yeah, and you know how, I'm not very tall? Well, this fellow was tall, and just all of a sudden he's turning purple in the newsroom, and he's like about to collapse. So I went around behind him. It's just the first thing I could think of. And all I can remember is my face is firmly in the middle of his back, and I'm just squeezing as hard as I can. And all of a sudden, he just says, okay, I'm fine now.
Wow.
And color had returned to him and everything. And I said, are you playing a joke on me? And he goes, no. He says, sometimes I have anxiety attacks.
Ooh.
And it just happens. And apparently, whatever you did worked.
So he wasn't choking.
No, he wasn't choking. He was
just anxious.
Yeah, he was just anxious.
He probably thought, what the hell is Ken Weaver doing to me?
I'm not real sure. I'd probably be more anxious if the hairy little man was grabbing me from behind.
Brother Ken Weaver just looking for an excuse to wrestle.
All right, I got one for you here. I don't know. It's just, I think, fascinating. Do you guys collect coins?
Not really.
We actually have a big old jar of them, but not really for collection.
Yeah, you just put your spare change.
Just throw them in there.
Yeah, you know, you do that, and I have a bucket that I just take. And when I come home at the end of the day, if there's any change in my pocket, I throw it in that bucket.
Right.
And then at the end of, it's a pretty good sized bucket. You can have a couple $1,000s in change there when that thing gets filled up. Mm-hmm. So it's a nice way to sort of have some mad money that you want to spend later. But my dad used to collect coins and was very careful about looking at every coin that he ever had to see if there was that magic coin. Listen to this. 3 sisters from Ohio who inherited a dime kept in a bank vault for more than 40 years knew that it had some value. But they had no idea just how much until a few years ago. The extraordinarily rare coin was struck by the U.S. Mint in San Francisco in 1975. Not that long ago, really. Could bring more than $500,000, said Ian Russell, president of Great Collections, which specializes in currency and is handling an online auction that will end in October. What makes this? It's a dime. It's a Franklin dime. Is so valuable it's marking the S mint mark for San Francisco. D, Denver, S, San Francisco, P, Philadelphia. Apparently, there are just 2 coins ever marked that got out of the San Francisco Mint without this particular mint mark.
So it's just missing the little S, that's all.
Yeah, missing the S. The other one sold in 2019 for $456,000, and then again months later to a private collector. We don't know how much. While serious coin collectors have long known about the existence of these 2 rare dimes, their whereabouts had remained a mystery since the late 1970s. They were hidden for decades. Most major collectors and dealers have never seen one. Well, of course they haven't. There's only 2.
Right. One was locked in a vault for 40 years.
The Mint in San Francisco made more than 2.8 million uncirculated proof sets in 1975 that featured 6 coins that were sold for about $7. Collectors a few years later discovered that 2 dimes from the set were missing the mint mark, and those are the ones that have value.
Wow.
So apparently this got handed down from dad to son, and then from the brother passed away and gave it to the surviving sisters, and they are now putting it on the market. It could have a value of, as I said, somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000. But now that, don't go looking through all your Franklin dimes. These were all part of a proof set, and if you don't have the proof set, there's no chance that you have the right dime. So
they're not going to believe it whenever I use a little pencil and write an S on it.
Yeah.
Now you need to erase the S.
No, erase the S. Yeah. Maybe just get rid of it. Yeah. He said there is a chance more examples of the rare diamond are out there, but they would only be found in a 1975 proof set and not in pocket change. He expects the latest discovery to set off a lot of searching. Like I say, I don't really look at it that closely. But here's what I'm always amazed at. I'll get a bucket full of coins, and I go down to the coin machine. I don't bother with, I just go down there and say, well, okay, you're going to get your 5 or 10%, but I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of it. So I go ahead
just so you can just dump it.
Just get rid of it and see what I collect. And so what happens is you throw it into the machine, and the machine processes it. And if the coin's not right, it will spit it out.
Yeah.
And what's always amazing to me is that when you do that, you find okay, here's Canadian money. Here's Mexican money.
Yeah.
Here's Guatemalan money.
Chuck E. Cheese token.
Here's a button.
A button.
A lot of guitar picks end up, because I'll have a guitar pick in my pocket and it'll go in that bucket. So I'll get a bunch, about 5 or 6 guitar picks back. But it's amazing the kind of stuff that, gets handed out every day. You don't look at it that closely. You don't even notice that you've been given like Canadian money or Mexican money or foreign money at all. It just shows up and you say, wow, how about that? Somebody gave me that as change.
Amazing, man.
Yeah, it is amazing.
What if somebody in this family comes up and says, wait a minute, there's too much sentimental value?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to
happen. No, $500,000 would overcome the sentimental value. Apparently, they're going to split it between a couple of sisters, so, they're not going to get $250,000. And then Kamala Harris will take all that as gains tax. So, just saying. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. I thought it was very
There's
interesting.
just no telling how much money that has passed through your hands that may have actually been worth more.
Yeah,
and you just didn't know it.
How many times did money pass through your hands that had real value?
Yeah.
And you'll never know. Well,
and I would never even know what to look for.
And I don't take the time to look at it when I'm running it through the machine.
Yeah.
No.
So it goes back to the Coinstar people.
Wow.
All right. Well, anyway, we'll call it 50 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. You know, there are no pills or spinal creams that can magically open up your spinal disc and take the pressure off your nerves. You have two choices. If you have pain in your back, that's pressure on your nerves. You can do surgery, or you can do non-invasive spinal decompression. I chose non-surgical spinal decompression at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Their state-of-the-art facilities offer the high-tech equipment and latest non-surgical procedures. And because getting better is so important to Dr. Kevin Mitchell and Dr. Ashley, they are offering half-off spinal decompression treatments and half-off the KT knee machine, which is like spinal decompression for the knee. Now, if you're a new patient, you get an exam, an x-ray if you need one, consultation, and a first treatment, and all of that only costs you $23. I'm Brian Wilson, and I put my stamp of approval on the Wellness Institute of Nashville. So call them today, 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Bracing for Tropical Storm Francine and an update from Kentucky State Police on the search for the highway shooting suspect coming up at 6 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, listen, coming up here in just a few moments, I'll be joined by Dan Mandis, by Chris Hand, by Matt Murphy, and we will continue on for the next 2 hours leading up to the debate. We're live in Mount Juliet at Scoreboards at Cedar Creek Marina. So come on down. We still have a few places open. Love to have you join us for the big debate party. It is now 57 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. Well, let me tell you, if I could, about the folks over at Grace Point Healthcare. You know, listen, think about this if you would. Grace Point is affordable. They are comprehensive in their medicine, and they are convenient. I mean, those are the three things you really want, right? Affordable, comprehensive, and convenient. They have medicine delivered the old-fashioned way. Here's the deal. You may have kids and going back to school, and those kids may need a physical for the sports that they're playing. Grace Point wants you to know they provide complete physical for kids of all ages. And if you're taking an international trip, sometimes you need travel immunizations. Grace Point offers complete travel immunizations and is CDC certified for yellow fever and all other international immunization protocols. Most importantly, they will see you the same day, or in some cases the very next day, so you don't have to wait days or weeks to see a doctor. That's modern medicine at your convenience, delivered the old-fashioned way. Located on Main Street in Franklin, here's the number, 615-599-6868 to set up your appointment.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.